he also does a good job. So I think you'd like his content.
I've never seen him before, but if he does something similar, I would like it. I don't know. I like when people. I like getting product reviews where they don't mind bashing a product. They're like, look at this.
Can I jump in? He goes out of his way to prove how not purchased he is. Like, you know, he buys it himself, he uses it for a little while, and like he just doesn't seem like he's advertising for somebody.
My favorite part of Garage Gym Review Guy is his collection of barbells.
Yes, oh my God.
He, after a while, you have to start thinking, all right, how much weight? How much more does his home weigh than mine? Because he has weights in his. You know what I mean? Like at some point, he's got 20,000 pounds of weight hanging on the side of his house. Like
I honestly think it's more hurricane-proof. Like that's the heavier, older construction living at the beach is like it'll keep your house held down and steady.
Can you imagine if a tornado hit his house? It would send that shit flying. They throw cars.
Yeah, but I don't think barbells are structured. They would just be harder to pick up for the wind.
Yeah, but he's got them connected to that pegboard back there. That's going to take that whole board and use it to like flick that thing of bars across the county. That is not his collection, by the way, that I'm flipping out about. He has hundreds. Like this is like that's what he has on hand from day to day. He has in the back left corner. You might see tons of them still in the racks and stuff. He has hundreds. This may even be an older space because he's changed space a few times.
I'm not sure his preference in barbells. Yeah, you can still learn something by hearing what he has to say, but man, he likes that knurling. Like, just fucking replace the knurling with razor blades so he gets a better grip.
Does he use gloves?
I don't think so. I'm not sure though. I'm not sure enough to answer. Yeah. But I don't like him that. I don't like knurling that aggressive. I don't need it. As a matter of fact, my knurling is like filled with chalk. A lot of people might not like my bars, but that's become my preference.
I like knurling, but I wear gloves. I always wear those lifting gloves. I've got soft lady hands. Look at those.
Beautiful.
Look at that. No calluses. Look at that. Soft, smooth. All right, which one of these do you want going into your vagina? Huh?
All five. All five.
One of you were supposed to hold up your caveman hands and like for comparison.
No, you made me self-conscious.
Yeah, right. You don't even want to touch yourself with. I wouldn't touch myself with your hand. My God.
Fuss.
I couldn't.
There'd be no way for you to close your eyes and pretend it wasn't me. You'd be like, it's scratchy.
But yeah, I always wear my gloves, so I don't mind a good bit of knurling, but he's overboard with it. He wants those things to be dangerous.
I get calluses on like this part of my palm from because I do like really high rep dips, and I think I need to make my I need to add like more tape to the handles or something, because it's just hard. Like sometimes I'll be finishing a set of dips and be like, I feel like my chest and tries could keep going, but like my hands really hurt. Like this is probably not ideal, but it's just gonna make me tougher over time.
That's why I switched to push-ups on my knuckles. My wrists were the weakness.
I use those handles.
They're the best. That's the best.
I bought these thick wooden handles that have that flat part on the bottom, obviously, because I've had the thin plastic ones before, and after just like a month or two of using those, you just destroy that little film of foam that's over the top of it, and then you're just pushing on a hard piece of plastic, which is unpleasant. The wood one is the way to go.
The hierarchy, in my opinion, is handles, knuckles, and then palms. That's the worst.
When I'm doing push-ups with my palms, I'll feel like this isn't right. Like this is putting a lot of strain in there. Like if you go high volume with it just doesn't feel good. It feels like I'm putting maybe tension in an area that would be better served if I was, neutral grip. Do you do a lot of push-ups, like calisthenic stuff?
Yeah. If I like mixing push-ups in, and like every time I will do push-ups. So coffee's making, let's do some push-ups. Like toasters cooking, let's do some push-ups. Waiting on you to call me back. Man, how long is this gonna take? Well, let's see, 1, 2, and like cranking those out throughout the day lets you get a ton of volume, because it's you got push-up out that you're doing like multiple positions and tons of volume. So I just kind of like mixing them in. Like, if you do that for a week, by the second week you're so much stronger. Like, notice, like, okay, I used to do 10 while I made my coffee, now I do 12. That's a huge amount of difference in what I'm capable of doing. If I were a machine that suddenly could do 20% more work, I'd be, what have we done here? We got to start selling these. But I just did it to my body while I made coffee. So that's what I do with push-ups. I would never do push-ups in the gym, though. Like, as part of that.
Well, you're off gym mode, aren't you? Like, you do.
Yeah, I'm not doing. I'm like barely working out right now, but definitely out off of public gym.
I have a power tower that I put up in my living room for now, and it only weighs like 85 pounds, so I just pick it up and move it if I have company over into my out of the way in my sunroom corner. And so, like, just throughout the day, I'm just doing pull-ups and dips all the time.
Oh my God.
I really think that's, like, today. I was busy. I didn't have time to go like downstairs and do a full real workout. So I'm like, all right, in between these things, I'm just going to do just sets of pull-ups, sets of dips. And I keep track on a little notepad.
Round 10. Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
Sunday, December 29th, 2024. This is your award-winning Cuba Nation Media Assassination episode 1725.
This is No Agenda. Food from Home Shopping Network. I'm John C. Dvorak.
The bigger question is, why were you watching the Home Shopping Network?
Oh, I watch it all the time. I love the Home Shopping Network. QVC, and the other one, the big one, was just the Jewelry TV, JTV.
Well, isn't Instagram and TikTok that basically the new Home Shopping Networks now?
I don't know. I never bought anything from them.
Oh, the ladies, they buy everything off of Instagram.
I've never, no.
No, well, you're not ladies.
I'm not the ladies for one thing.
You're not the ladies, no.
Maybe I'll catch up.
You're not the ladies.
But they're selling breaded chicken cutlets this morning on Home Shopping. They sell all kinds of food that's prepared. It's like, who's going to buy? Oh, all you have to do is heat it up, and not cheap.
Oh, but this is what has become of our intake here.
It's pathetic, to be honest about it. Who's going to buy breaded chicken cutlets from Home Shopping Network and then reheat it?
Well, they're setting you up for their next product. This next item we have is a special discount on Ozempic.
Yeah, well, they haven't done that yet.
It's coming. It's coming. So the end is near. The Skynet is closing in on us. Let me tell you about our return from Europe.
Oh, yes, now. Okay, well, you have to brief everyone. If you haven't listened to the show for a while, Adam has been in Europe. Now, he came back during a horrendous moment in flight history because all the airports are closed. And there was delays everywhere. I was watching news thing go back.
Yeah, no.
Good. Out.
I will say this about that. Facial recognition is here. Leaving Schiphol Airport. Facial recognition to exit customs. That's the EU, most countries except for the United States, of course. You have to go through customs when you leave so they know you left. I've never understood why we don't have that. But you walk through a little gate. Good to go. Gate opens. Walk through. Board onto Delta. Do you need your boarding pass? Your passport? No. Facial recognition. Good to go. Come into the United States. We came to Atlanta. Now, I will say we got global entry because the last time we came in, we came back from Mexico, we stood in line for 2 hours. I'm like, okay, I'm giving up my biometric data for this. This is crazy. I haven't had global entry in at least maybe about 10 years. And you walk up to the kiosk. I have my global entry card. I've got my passport. No. Bzz, bzz. Go. And and then you walk up to the customs agent, he's just waving you on through. It's facial recognition all the way through, which of course means now with the flip of the switch, they can block me, stop me from going anywhere. It was
with the flip of the switch.
Yeah, it was great on one hand. On the other hand, just frightening.
I had I told the story in the show before, but about looking back at it, maybe almost 15 years ago, maybe 20. I was in Portugal, and I was at some event, and next door to the event I was at, there was a tech event of sorts for police departments and security and they had this you could play with. So and this was like 10-15 years ago. And it was designed for airports. And so you could go through it as many times as you wanted, doing anything you wanted to do. I was doing my off my face. I went through it about 10 times. It never missed. Once it got your original face, you couldn't fool it.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that bothered me. And to this day, I remember that there's nothing you could do to fool it. You could close your eyes, you could squint, you could lift one eyebrow, you could do all kinds of things, and it was not being fooled by any of it.
I know. It's a good technology. It's quite remarkable.
It's quite good.
It's quite remarkable.
They say now, I mean, that since then they've determined that even if you wear a mask.
Oh well, even the iPhone unlocks with your mask on these days. Oh yeah, no, this stuff is good. And your iPhone, of course, is taking a snapshot every 5 seconds. It's looking to see if you got your face in front of it. So it's the whole thing. It's great, but it's really not great.
It's not great at all.
No, it's great because
it's onerous. Is the word you're looking for? Onerous would be today's word.
Yeah,
it's onerous. We don't need this aggravation.
No, not really happy with it. Well, let's stick with aviation then, since you brought it up.
And by the way, since we have so much of this facial recognition, how come they can't stop all crime?
Well, now you've stumped me. I don't know if they can stop all crime, but they
should be able to catch you. They should be able to at least identify all criminals.
It's coming.
I don't understand. Many of them are recidivists that came out of jail or prison. They obviously took pictures of their faces in prison.
Yeah.
So,
well, they can't seem to do it at the border. It works great for people just traveling. Yeah, for me, it works great for me. Yeah. All right. The news game. Let me just...
I'm just going to say I do have a background clip on the Azerbaijan thing if you want to play that.
Well, I'll give you the latest news that came in overnight and then see if we can play the backgrounder.
Since the crash of Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 243, suspicions have been growing over Russia's involvement. On Saturday, the Kremlin said President Vladimir Putin had apologized to his Azerbaijan counterpart over the phone. He admitted that Russian air defense was active at the time, but stopped short of taking responsibility.
In the conversation, it was noted that the Azerbaijani passenger aircraft, which was following the schedule, repeatedly tried to land at the airport of Grozny. At the same time, Grozny, Mozdok and Vladikavkaz were attacked by Ukrainian combat drones, and Russian air defense systems repelled these attacks.
The Russian president did not confirm that the plane had been hit by a Russian air defense missile. For experts, however, there is no doubt. They say these holes in the plane's fuselage are proof of shrapnel from an anti-aircraft missile. Meanwhile, the president of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, said that the plane was hit in Russian airspace by external physical interference, as suggested by survivors' accounts. Since the crash, which killed 38 people, Azerbaijan Airlines has announced that it would be suspending flights to 8 other Russian cities. Other airlines from Kazakhstan, Israel and Dubai have followed suit and cancelled flights to Russia.
So it seems pretty clear. They're going to blame it on Ukraine. Because Ukraine was shooting drones into Russian airspace, and it's their fault. They just haven't quite admitted it yet. Do we need your background on this?
I think the background would be good because there's some new material that came out just before the show from our buddy Doug.
Doug? Oh, Doug the douchebag?
Doug the douchebag from France 24.
Where has he been? I've been missing him in my life.
He's around. He's back.
All right.
I don't remember being called Doug the douchebag, but
he's Doug the douchebag. The bald douche. Yeah. Is this the Kazakh air crash?
The bald douche.
Russian President Vladimir Putin apologized to the leader of Azerbaijan today after the deadly Azerbaijani airline crash in Kazakhstan, but he didn't take responsibility for the crash. In a statement, the Kremlin says it was responding to a Ukrainian drone strike in Chechnya. NPR's Elena Moore reports.
In a Kremlin readout of the call, Putin characterized the crash, which killed 38 people, as a tragic incident, apologizing that it happened in Russian airspace. It comes a day after White House National Security spokesman John Kirby addressed Russia's potential involvement.
We do have seen some early indications that would certainly point to the possibility that this jet was brought down by Russian air defense systems.
Kirby added that an investigation conducted by Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan is ongoing, and the U.S. has offered its assistance.
Where's douchebag Doug?
No, I don't have to clip. I said that was this morning. That's
I'm
mixing me up.
Yeah. What did douchebag Doug say?
Douchebag Doug came on France 24. First of all, they brought the president of Azerbaijan this morning, came out and said, Putin's responsible. What we wanted was an apology. He didn't give an apology. Now what we want is a compensation for the lost jet and compensation for all the dead people. And so he made a demand on Putin, which is one dictator to another. This was quite interesting. Douchebag Doug comes on and says, well, the problem that Putin actually has here is that Azerbaijan is the route that the Russians have been using. You have to go through Azerbaijan because of all the sanctions against Russia. They can't do this, they can't do that, they can't fly here, they can't fly there. Azerbaijan is like the route that Russia has to use. And so he's got leverage on Putin, and Putin's going to have to do something about it. Well, he's very sincere about it. He says, yeah, you can acknowledge this and that, but where's the apology? He just wants an apology for shooting down this plane.
Well, because Putin needs to figure out how to blame it on Ukraine.
I think that ship sailed.
I have a couple of clips. I only play one here. This is the Russian aviation chief who went into a little more detail.
Now to Kazakhstan, and investigations
on the BBC
continue into what caused the crash of an Azerbaijani passenger plane.
How old-fashioned is this style, by the way? And now to Azerbaijan.
That's like the old. I'm always reminded of these old boxing clips of the fights in the 30s and 40s, and you hear a guy going, round 10. This is cornball announcing style that died 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, except at the BBC.
Now to Kazakhstan, and investigations continue into what caused the crash of an Azerbaijani passenger plane in the country on Christmas Day. Representatives of Azerbaijan Airlines speak of external physical and technical interference, but they don't say what that could have been. 38 people died in that crash, but there were some survivors. The plane had originally tried to land at Grozny airport in southern Russia, but was denied permission and diverted to Kazakhstan, where it crashed near the airport at Aktau. Well, the head of Russia's aviation watchdog, Dmitry Yadvrov, said the diversion was necessary because of a difficult situation around Grozny airport.
I should note that the situation in the area of Grozny Airport that day during those hours was quite difficult. Ukrainian combat drones were mounting terrorist attacks on civilian infrastructure in the cities of Grozny and Vladikavkaz. Because of this, all aircraft had to leave the indicated airspace immediately.
I like the term Ukrainian combat drones. I haven't really heard it described that way. UCDs, Ukrainian combat drones.
I like the combat drone.
Yeah, terrorist attacks. Okay, I like that. So this seems pretty obvious, and I like that we got the douchebag Doug info. There were, however, two more crashes that I think are a little more... Yes, Yes.
Well, yeah, the one in Korea is a nasty one, but then of course, I think one thing that we should mention that we had noticed, but we're not going to talk much about is the Navy's shooting down of its own F-18.
Well, that would be 3 crashes. I'll skip the Navy's F-18 to 66. How much was 66 million?
$66 million down the drain of taxpayer money.
Yeah. Now we complain about taxpayer money. No,
we always complain about taxpayer money.
There were 2 other crashes of note, and yes, indeed, the first is the South Korean airliner.
This was a dramatic moment. The Jeju plane carrying 181 people crash-landed and burst into a ball of flames. So far, 2 people have been pulled out alive, but over 100 have been killed. Officials said the landing gear of the Boeing 737 arriving from Bangkok appeared to have malfunctioned. Local media reported it may have been caused by birds getting into the plane system, combined with adverse weather conditions. They have promised a thorough investigation and rescue operation. The airline CEO has paid tribute to those who lost their lives.
Above all, I would like to express my deepest condolences and apologies to the passengers and their families whose relatives lost lives in this accident. Regardless of the cause of the accident, I feel responsible as the CEO. We at Jeju Air will do our best to quickly resolve the accident and support the families of the passengers.
The crash is one of the deadliest seen in South Korea. It is the first big test for acting President Choi Sung-muk, who was named interim leader of the country on Friday.
So just looking at this video right away, I'm like, no. This is not a bird strike. There's some video of a puff coming out of the engine. The likelihood of a bird strike causing the landing gear to not deploy is unlikely. Also, looking at that landing, if you want to call it a landing, no. That plane was going very fast, had no trim, no air speed brakes, nothing was deployed. So it looked much more like a complete hydraulic failure. And because you can actually lower the gear on a 737, you can pull a lever, and the gear will drop just from centrifugal force, from gravity. It'll just drop down. I don't know if it locks in place. It's not a great way to do it, but that was not happening. And if anything, it looked like they were trying to do a touch and go and do a go around. And then, of course, South Korea decided to put a very big barrier at the end of the runway. It's unfortunate. It's a day wrecker. But the same day, a KLM 737-800, same aircraft, flight KL-1204, which you did not hear about, overran the runway after a diversion to Oslo, and they said that they had a hydraulic failure. Smoke came from the left engine, and now they landed okay, but they had no control of flaps or landing gear. So, seeing that this happens on the same day, 2 exact same type aircraft, I'm going to say it would be worthwhile to look into the latest batch of Boeing aircraft.
If they're from the same batch, which is a possibility, this is an old quality control thing. You find if one go. This is the reason that, by the way, just to change, I'd say targets of the topic. That's why you don't buy when you load up with a RAID. Or your hard disk, you buy 6 hard disks. You don't buy from the same.
No, not the same vendor. No, not the same batch. No,
you can get the same vendor, but not the same batch. Because if one fails, they all fail. This is a very common phenomenon in tech, and airplanes would be no different, or even cars. They, when one fails in that batch, the ones that came out that week or that month or whatever, that were before the inspectors came around and did their job, you're going to end up with a bunch of them failing. Yeah, I agree. I think you're right.
And, it's a good time to blame everything on birds, it was a bird strike.
No, bird flu.
Bird flu, yes. And, on that note, we do need some important people that were back on. We start the important introduction.
Well, we begin with a concerning new CDC report on the first severe human case of bird flu in the U.S. Samples taken from a patient in Louisiana show mutations that could make it easier for this virus to spread from person to person. Now, right now, there's no evidence it has passed.
No evidence.
It's been passed along to anyone else, and the CDC says risk to the public remains low. But experts warn a single mutation like this could potentially lead to another pandemic.
Yes, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, the No Agenda Nation, the pandemic propaganda princess is back, scarf and all.
Joining us now is Dr. Deborah Birx. You may remember her as the response coordinator for the...
How does this woman even get on any air whatsoever when she already admitted that she's a liar?
I think there's very good reasons for this, and as we go through a couple of these clips, I shall explain why I believe it. She, by the way, Commodore Deborah Birx, former military, although it's not on her resume, she might have specialized in psychological operations. She has joined a lot of different outfits. She joined that indoor air filter company as the chief scientist or some nonsense like that, but she's also now just recently joined Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center. She's on all kinds of boards. She's picking up money left and right. Just pick some money up here, pick some money up there, and I'm sure she's on the, this is CNN, I'm sure she's on the CNN payroll as an expert to come in and talk.
Deborah Birx, you may remember her as the response coordinator for the White House Coronavirus Task Force in the first Trump administration. We are very fortunate to have your expertise as we try to figure out what's going on with the bird flu and what it could mean. So far, 65 human cases of bird flu have been reported in the U.S. this year, all contracted by animals, but now we have this new mutation in Louisiana.
Wait. All contracted by animals? She means from animals.
There's going to be a lot of confusion about that. And now is it zoonotic or zoonotic?
It's zoonotic.
Zoonotic. When is it zoonotic?
It's only zoology.
Zoology and zoonotic. Okay. All right. But there's going to be a lot of confusion about
By the way, I did a deep dive on that just to get that right.
I'm glad. That's why there's two of us.
How worried should we be?
How worried should we be? It used to be concerned. Now it's worried. How worried should we be?
Deanna, how worried should we be about bird flu potentially becoming another pandemic?
By the way, they've got a great new picture of the bird flu. So just like we had coronavirus, we had that spiky ball thing.
Spiky
ball thing. So this is, it looks like 5, so they've got 4 cells, like circular cells, all stuck together, with a 5th one off to the side, just close enough, not quite there.
Oh, the one that is going to be the one mutation away.
Yes, indicating that that's the one. Yes, that's the one.
Well, I love the way you said 63 cases, because I have no idea how many cases there were.
And now, this is cool.
Well, hold on. What?
She's
the expert.
No, this is a setup, because this is the same script. This is the script that's rolling out. Why don't we know? What do we need? We need to.
Well, I love the way you said 63 cases, because I have no idea how many cases there were or are. Because our number one principle in preventing pandemics is detect. And if you go to the CDC website, you can see that they're monitoring more than 10,000 exposures, but they've only tested 530.
Oh, we need to test!
What does that mean? That means we're not testing enough. And we know from other viruses that a lot of the spread can be asymptomatic. So we're kind of have our head in the sand about how
Typhoid Mary.
It's the same script.
Spread this is from the zoonotic standpoint, from the animal to human standpoint. Now, also remember, most of those cases described to date happened in the spring and the summer. Not when we had H1N1 circulating right now, when we're running the flu pandemic throughout the United States. So we have.
Did you know we have a flu pandemic? She just said that. She just said we have it. We're running. She said we're running the flu. Like, what is this?
What are you running?
Now she says we're running the flu pandemic.
That's what she said, yes.
I don't like the sound of that.
Not when we had H1N1 circulating right now, when we're running the flu pandemic with...
She even pauses, like, what did I just say? I shouldn't be saying that. I just gave it away. We're running the flu pandemic.
Right now, when we're running the flu pandemic with throughout the United States. So we have rising flu cases, and now we have still zoonotic events coming. So now you've set up for potentially a farm worker getting H5N1, also getting the current flu strain, and reassorting in that individual.
Reassorting? It's reassorting inside of me!
To me, that's almost a bigger threat to these mutations happening in individuals over time.
By the way, I'd like to give a little tip for our producers out there who are looking for some quick money. Now is the exact moment. You may even be a little bit on the late side. Get certified. There's a whole portal. I think CDC has a whole portal. You as a commercial entity can get certified. Our friends did this.
This is the same script. You're doing the other side of the script.
Yeah, yes.
Which is
the money making
side.
Yeah, get certified as a testing entity, and then you just buy up these tests really cheap. You can get them from Abbott because, of course, they already exist. Buy them up really cheap, and then you can be on the list and you can market to all these companies who have conferences in general, annual shareholder meetings, and it is a bonanza. Remember your No Agenda show.
When you say reassorting in that person, what does that mean?
Okay, so the H5 virus, which doesn't adapt too well to our upper respiratory tract and is preventing us from getting infected, but it's affecting cows and pigs and cats and dogs.
What?
So our flu, which has the binding sites for us, for our nasal passages. Viruses are very specific, and so they're very animal or human specific. Now we have human flu circulating. At the same time, we have the zoonotic flu circulating.
And the zoonotic is for our
the
H5,
the bird flu, yes. Okay. So we have the animal flu, let's call it the animal flu, and now we have human flu.
Animal flu.
Co-circulating. And at any time, someone could get both.
What? But I don't know. What she's saying here over and over again is, in a human being, you could have the regular flu, and then the animal flu would combine together, and you breathe that out, and you breathe it to someone else, and then they get
Yeah. You're right. Keep going.
Well, then they would get the flu. Then we'd have a mutation, and then we're all going to die.
Yeah, exactly. We're all going to die.
Co-circulating. And at any time, someone could get both of those unknowingly. And particularly in California, where all the dairy workers now are getting exposed, flu is rising in the south and into California. So we should be monitoring carefully that dual exposure, because if you get both of the flus at the same time, the H5 flu, the bird flu, could get the genes from the human flu and make it infectious to humans in the same way that our current flu is.
Okay, so
that makes sense.
Well,
but she never says anything about raw milk. Come on.
Just patience. Now, good news for you. Your favorite free item from the government should be coming.
It could become infectious to humans even if it's not coexisting with the human flu, right?
Well, if it mutates like it did in this individual,
like in the Louisiana
or in the case in Canada. But that sometimes is a random, slower process.
Okay.
But if you have that co-infection, then you can share genes.
Okay.
And that's really, to me, the spring and the summer where we had all of the dairy cattle to farm worker exposure, we didn't have human flu circulating. So now we're entering a much more dangerous period, yet we're still not testing. And we should be providing tests free of charge to dairy farm workers so they can test anonymously weekly, because they'll want to know if they have both cases of potential flus co-circulating in their own body to protect their families. People are very smart. I find the American public to be incredibly smart. If you tell them the risk and you give them the tools, they will utilize them to protect themselves and their family.
Sure they will.
This, by the way, was like 20 minutes she was on. They're not horsing around. Look, you have bird flu. Now let's bring in some more scientific terms.
You don't think this country has learned from the COVID pandemic?
Our
there's not a sense of urgency right now.
Our agencies are making the same mistakes they made with COVID. The number 2 principle of pandemic is detect. And the only way to detect for viruses is to test. You cannot see a virus through symptoms. You miss so many cases.
She said the number 2.
Yeah.
And then she goes, what was number 1?
Detect.
Did she ever say?
Yeah, detect. Detect was number 1, she said in the first clip.
She said detect was number 1.
Yes.
Well, what's number 2?
What did she just say number 2 was?
Detect.
Well, she's lying.
Or what did she say number 2 was? I'm sorry, back it up.
Okay, hold on a second.
The number 2 principle of pandemic is detect.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because she said earlier, the number 1 is detect.
Well, number 1's detect, number 2, this is like marketing. The 3 best things, the top 3 things in sales is location.
And the only way to detect for viruses is to test. You cannot see a virus through symptoms. You miss so many cases. Yet we're still talking about flu-like illness. Well, there is no flu-like illness. There's RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. It causes croup. Parents know what that is. There's mycoplasma pneumonia circulating right now. There's flu circulating right now, and soon there'll be COVID circulating. Those are all coffee respiratory illnesses that look the
Stop. My understanding is, based on the same bullcrap that this woman's pushed out before,
yes,
is that COVID's a year-round thing. It was big in the summer, winter, fall, doesn't matter. So why is all of a sudden COVID becoming seasonal? When did that happen? I'm asking you. You know, I know, we both know, we followed this right from the beginning. COVID was non-seasonal. They made a big fuss about it being non-seasonal.
Yes.
It's like, so when did it become seasonal? Like she just said.
Well, I'm going to move us along here just a little bit so I can get to the reason behind all of this.
Well, I'm sorry, but I may be interrupting on these things, but
no,
she's full of crap.
Yes.
And we have to, stop it when because we can't let this go into the public domain as if it's changed magically to a seasonal problem.
Well, this next clip will give us a little bit of a clue as to why she is doing this and why there are others out there doing this. And here it comes.
I want to turn to kind of looking ahead to Trump's picks to lead the nation's health agencies. As you know, some of them are controversial. At HHS, you have vaccine skeptic RFK Jr., also a big advocate for raw milk. At NIH, by the way, the raw milk is relevant to the bird flu discussion, so that's why I brought that up.
Wait, stop. I'm sorry.
I think RFK Jr.
When did Kennedy ever even mention raw milk in any of his discussions? Have you noticed this? I have never heard. I've listened to as much crap as you have, or at least as much.
As much.
And I have listened to Kennedy and we both have actually, Kennedy from day one, years and years ago. We've always been admired, even though you can barely hear him. I don't remember him mentioning raw milk once in his entire spiel. So how is he now suddenly an advocate?
Let me just do a quick thing. Let me see. If we don't have any clips, then it didn't happen. Milk. Nope. We have nothing on RFK Jr. and raw milk. Because it's not about bird flu. It's about, it's already clear what this is about.
At NIH, by the way, the raw milk is relevant to the bird flu discussion, so that's why I brought that up. At NIH, a doctor who criticized COVID lockdowns. At FDA, a doctor who said the government was the greatest perpetrator of misinformation during COVID. Do people like this concern you about our preparedness for another pandemic? What's your take?
Are you starting to hear what about? This is not about bird flu. This is about RFK Jr. This is a hit job. And who shows up on CBS Face the Nation? Our other pandemic propaganda princess, Lena Wen.
Something called reassortment.
Oh, she's
where things change because of one illness becoming another illness through reassortment of a mutated.
Same script. Reassortment. I've never heard of reassortment. This is new.
I've never heard of this in my life.
Brand new.
The combined age of way over 100. And it's like we do not have these things in the background.
Way over 100. Stand by. Lena Wen will unpack.
Virus.
That's right. And so the viruses could exchange genes. You could develop a new hybrid virus. And if you now have a virus that's more contagious and causes more severe disease, that's when it becomes a major threat to humanity.
Now that isn't going on.
Yeah, there are two main things that they should be doing in the days that they have left. The first is to get testing out there. I feel like we should have learned our lesson from COVID that just because we aren't testing, it doesn't mean that the virus isn't there. It just means that we aren't looking for it. We should be having rapid tests, home tests available to all farm workers.
Same script.
Their families, for the clinicians taking care of them.
By the way, Lena Wen also no longer in government service. These people don't work for the government anymore. She is now a contributor to CNN and, in this case, CBS Face the Nation.
So that we aren't waiting for public labs and CDC labs. Flu is out there. Could they withhold testing? I mean, that flu is out there. Could they withhold testing? I mean, that's a possibility. And I think the Biden administration in the remaining days should get testing and vaccines widely available so that at least it empowers state and local health officials and clinicians to do the right thing for their patients.
This has been the whole thing. All along, this is it. It's about RFK Jr. mainly, but there are others. Here's MSNBC.
Is we don't have enough to worry about during this cold flu COVID season.
Cold flu COVID.
There's worrying news about bird flu. The CDC says the virus now shows new mutations that may make it easier for the infection to be spread from person to person. And that increases the risk of a wider outbreak of bird flu, or even potentially a pandemic. The concerns over bird flu are rising just as we are on the verge of Senate confirmation hearings for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Secretary of Health and Human Services, which could begin in the first or second week of January.
It's coming up.
Kennedy's anti-vaccine stances are well known and deeply troubling for someone who would run the federal agency responsible for protecting the health and well-being of all people living in the United States. But it's not just Kennedy who is a concern. It's the people he would bring on board with him, like a raw milk producer in California whose products have been recalled due to bird flu contamination. This guy says Kennedy's team has asked him to lead the nation's policy on raw milk.
This is a bogus, complete bull crap setup for the confirmation hearing, which will be filled with bird flu nonsense. Are you an anti-vaxxer? If we have vaccines ready to go, we need. Are you going to stop the vaccine? Are you going to stop testing? Are you going to kill Americans? It's a 50% death rate. That's what this is about. And I take us back to one of your clips from episode 1725. McCullough talking about the vaccines that are good to go.
You know what they were doing, Dave? They were doing experiments in mallard ducks, migratory waterfowl. What a mistake. One of those guys gets out, they fly everywhere. You know, the media has not been asking the question, why did it spread from Texas to Iowa to Michigan? How did this happen? They didn't ask the question. They just think it's spontaneously rising. No, it's being spread by the ducks that are fly all over.
The ducks!
Wow.
And do we have any recourse to be able to stop this or sue this lab for spreading a migratory bird with a novel disease?
All these experts are saying we have to get ahead of nature. That's what Disease X researchers say. We have to get ahead of nature. We have to make it invade humankind and then come up with vaccines. So Disease X vaccines, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovation, that's that global center founded by Gates Foundation, World Economic Forum. They have an entire over 100-page white paper on Disease X. They said the whole reason to study Disease X is to have a Disease X vaccine. Sure enough, with bird flu, CSL Seqirus, a biotech company, has the Audens vaccine. It was FDA licensed in 2021 with no human data, ready to go for bird flu. They developed it with BARDA, a research unit of the military. 2021. And now the U.S. has purchased, you know, enough doses for millions of administrations. Why would the U.S. military be developing a bird flu vaccine?
For warp speed, too. I'm telling you, you know how there was these reports about a week ago that Biden interrupted his holiday, came back to the White House, and Vice President Harris came back to the White House, and what's going on? They're setting it up. They're setting it up for, I don't know if they're going to get it to do a warp speed, get the vaccine out there. They have it. They have a vaccine. It's clearly
yes,
going
that's
to be
the vaccine they were talking about in both those clips.
Yes, it's clearly mRNA based. I'm sure of that.
But I don't know about that.
Why not?
Well,
why not?
It's because it predates mRNA.
2021?
Well, no, it predates the popularity, which came later. It's hard to say.
It's almost irrelevant.
Whatever it is, it's crap.
This is all about Kennedy. It's all about discrediting him in the midst of a possible, we're one mutation away from a new pandemic. How dare you, sir? How very dare you be anti-vax? How dare you want to slow down vaccines? Big Pharma is smart. And look at the people they got. Oh, here's the meeting. All right, we gotta get this Kennedy guy's a problem. You know, let's get Burke.